Hi, my name's Gretchen and welcome to Into the Vortex. So why are Lisette and I producing this podcast? Why are we on this path? Well, firstly, we're on a path, that's a fact. And when I connect with others through community, I feel connected, validated, not alone. Imagine having all the thoughts and feelings that you have and never being able to share them. We humans crave connection. That's why we're here. Primarily, we're pack animals. It's a basic instinct to want to connect and share. Hence the podcast. Into the Vortex is a podcast about all the beliefs, tools and practices that Lisette and I have used to improve our lives, giving meaning, depth and truth to our experiences out in the world. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience here on earth. So why do we, especially in the Western world, neglect our spiritual being? We pay attention to our physical and mental health, but we often neglect the spiritual part of ourselves that is longing for something more. Some meaning, some understanding, some forgiveness, and some flow. Here at Into the Vortex, we will talk about anything and everything spirituality, personal development, and mental well-being. We will talk about how to live well in a world that is constantly changing, judging, demanding, and confusing. We will discuss the spiritual principles that can guide us into a life of bliss, into what we call living in the vortex. The vortex, the zone. Once you're in, believe me, you'll want to stay there, and you can. The vortex is a space in which you can thrive, attract, manifest, and flow. A space of abundance and a place of peace. So come with us, nurture your soul, and let's go into the vortex. Hey guys, welcome to Into the Vortex. My name is Gretchen and I'm here with my good friend Lisette.
Hello.
And Lisette and I are friends and we have a really similar interest in all things spirituality. And through this interest, we decided to start a podcast because we have some fascinating discussions and we wanted to start recording them and sharing them with you guys. So welcome along. My name's Gretchen and I'm an actress and I'm also a nurse. And this is Lisette.
Hi. I too am an actress and a writer and a mother. And yeah, I think that's all for now. There's probably more things that I do. But
that's enough.
Yeah, let's start.
Cool. So today we're going to, I'm basically going to ask Lisette a few questions about how she came into learning about spirituality and sort of trying to live her life along spiritual lines. So let's get into this. So Lisette, tell me a little bit about your life before you discovered, things like the law of attraction and...
Yeah, I remember as a child always being really curious about, I guess I would say magic or there being something deeper to everyday life. So I always remember looking for that sort of the hidden magic in life and thinking there's got to be more than just what we're seeing and what we're doing. And yeah, I was always a very big thinker and a bit of a dreamer. And I remember distinctly at like age 10 being taken to a spiritual fair by my auntie who was very much into spirituality and I think meditation, maybe Buddhism sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And she went to go and see some sort of lecture and left me to roam around the fair. And I hadn't really had much to do with spirituality in that sense. I'd sort of heard about, tarot and fortune telling and always been kind of really interested, but it had never been like offered to me quite like that. So there I was, this 10-year-old just wandering around and I had like $5 pocket money, and I just kept walking around the stalls, and someone was like, do you want to make a candle? And I was like, sure. So I was dipping candles, and he was like, would you like to put your intentions into the candle? And I was like, what
does that mean?
Yeah. And he was like, what's your star sign? And he wrote Aquarius on it, and wrote my name on it, and wrote the date, and he was like, what's your intentions? And I was like, I want to be a really good swimmer. And he just sort of like did some sort of sigil on the candle, and then covered it in glitter, and then he handed it to me, and I was just like, whoa. And he was like, now every time you burn this candle, your intentions will be clear and they'll be coming to fruition. And so I was like, what? So that's really the first time.
What a cool memory.
Yeah, that was the first time that I was like, my intentions can be put into a candle. And then after that, I was kind of off on this like tangent of kind of witchcraft and all sorts of things. And I remember, the same day I discovered auric photography. So there was like someone taking aura photos. There were like tarot readers, and at the same time as being really curious, my auntie was like, oh, no, you're too young for that. So there was a real respect around sort of spirituality. It wasn't treated like something you take lightly or something that's a bit of a gag. It was really something that you respect and honour. And so it definitely stayed with me that it's something that you don't play around with. It's actually something you take seriously. It's not like a sideshow gag. It's like real life.
A way of life, yeah.
Yeah, it's a way of life, and it's a way of sort of
and a new element to life.
Absolutely. And I think that's what I'd been searching for as a younger child, was something more. And here there were all these like grown adults like offering me all these amazing new things, and I was like, oh, this is fantastic.
And at home with your parents, did they follow any particular religion?
My parents were both like they'd both been raised Catholic. And then they had both sort of very quickly dropped it when they left home. So my dad was an altar boy, and he'd just, gone through the motions, but had never really felt a belief or felt a connection to God or anything like that. And he definitely didn't feel a connection with like the Catholic religion or anything. Never remembered Bible verses, never really touched a Bible. My mum was very similar, but it was like in her family it was very expected that you go to church. But as a teenager, she would not go, and like they're meant to be down the back of the church, but they would just run off and smoke cigarettes, so it was never they were never really like committed and never really connected to it. So very early on they dropped their religion and just became pretty proud atheists, I guess. Like they were just like, we don't believe in anything,
just really pragmatic.
No real religion, no followed religion, but also no spiritual connection as well. And so I think as a kid I craved that. I think I needed a spiritual connection in life, and they really just didn't have any direction with spirituality. So they weren't really into like yoga even, or any kind of spiritual mythology. They just didn't have it. And
there's definitely I think especially in that generation, my parents now are in their 70s, but there's definitely that group of people that call, spirituality a sort of an airy-fairy element to life, and that it's just not real. And I was definitely brought up with that kind of belief as well. And had the same drive as you to find a deeper meaning. I was always looking for meaning in things.
Something that actually speaks to you as a person, like you connect with it. And that's what I was searching for. And I knew it wasn't an organised religion that I had experienced. I knew it wasn't really like Christianity never really had a pull to, drew me in either. But then there was always definitely something more about this other side of, when I'd meet people who said that they were mediums, I'd be like, whoa, this is
fascination.
Amazing. There was definitely something more attractive to me about the whole spirit realm, and about not even about worshipping a divine God. It was more about connecting to nature and knowing that we're all kind of connected to nature, and we are all one, and we're all kind of vibrating. It was very much that sort of knowing that that's what I felt connected to.
I was very similar. I think for me as a child, and still now as an adult, organised religion to me seems like another set of rules having another male figure telling me what to do and how to live my life.
Totally.
I do have a belief in a God, but it's not one that I've been taught about. It's more just it's more a sort of a consciousness of what's perhaps right and wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I definitely do now consider that I would have a belief in a higher power, and it may not be an entity that I would describe as God, perhaps. It's definitely just more of like a universal energy that I'm, really connected to, and I try to stay connected to as much as possible.
Yeah.
And try and remember that it's like we're all part of the world, we're all part of the earth, we're all connected to nature. And that's really what I focus on spiritually now, is really connecting to nature. And when I feel out of alignment, it's usually when I haven't connected with nature and I don't feel grounded and I haven't been out in fresh air and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, is becoming, when I'm not feeling spiritually connected, that's me. Like when I'm inside too long, or I'm not breathing in fresh air, or I haven't been for a walk in a bush walk or through the forest, that's when I start to go, I don't feel connected to anything anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. So tell me a little bit about your teenage years and your sort of early adulthood.
Yeah, well, I continued with my sort of, exploration into spirituality, and I started collecting crystals and became fascinated with the craft. When I was like 13, the craft came out. And that was so exciting, because I was like, they're teenage witches. And me and my friends were like 13 at the time, but it was an R16. And so we tried to sneak in multiple times and didn't get in, never got to see it. But it was that kind of thing about, well, we can create some magic between us, that feeling of having a sisterhood of women who were supporting each other and making magic. And that was so exciting. So there was always kind of a feeling of that between my friends, like that we kind of honoured that whole magical belief system, and having a connection to nature through some sort of religion. At times it was Wicca, at times it was paganism, but it was always like a real fascination, and it kept on going until I started drinking as a teenager, and then I think all of that stuff sort of just went away, and I became fascinated with drinking and boys and getting into mischief.
Sounds like pretty normal Kiwi teenage years.
That's pretty much where my focus went for a really long time, and I didn't start to sort of re-examine my connection to spirituality until I went to drama school at 20 and started realising...
Was that here in Wellington?
Yeah, I went to what was Wellington Performing Arts Centre. It's now Whitireia Performing Arts Centre. So it's moved buildings and moved managements and stuff. But I did a 2-year diploma in theatre and film there, and that really tested my beliefs, because I hadn't really needed to have a strong self-belief system, and I didn't need a strong spiritual belief system until I really got to a point where I couldn't believe in myself.
I so understand that. It's almost like you were thrown into this situation, surrounded by your peers and all of the, well, if it's anything like, my late teenage years, early 20s, for me that was a time in my life where I was searching for things to prop up my self-esteem.
Yes, yeah.
And
totally.
so anything kind of... anything external to that became secondary. Yeah. Because I suffered from, my self-esteem wasn't that healthy. I was a bit confused about what I wanted to do. I wanted to be liked. All of those things became so important that anything else just did drift away.
Yeah, and I really felt that. Like I would spend a lot of time in my room in around 15, 16, and I would just light candles, like the one I got from the spiritual fair all those years ago, and
at age 10.
Yeah, and I would actually set my intentions and practice candle magic and all that sort of stuff. But when I got friends, started being more social, I let it all go, and just only cared about the next party and stuff. But it was, drama school was pretty, I think all creative industries are pretty brutal, but when you go and you're suddenly you're taking your art out into the world and you're putting it up for scrutiny. So you basically say, this is me, this is what I'm capable of, and then the tutors might say, it's not good enough, or people in your class might sort of rip you down, and all of these things happened to me. And so it was the first time I really had to go, can I actually do this? What am I even doing here? I'm not good enough to be an actor. You know, what if it doesn't work out? And just all the thoughts started going. And I'd always had like anxiety, sort of tendencies towards anxiety, but that really brought it to the forefront, was just the self-judgment constantly.
And you know, especially in that particular industry.
Yes.
Where you are presenting something of your own. It's such a vulnerable place, isn't it?
And it's even, you're actually presenting yourself as an actor, which is so hard, because even if you're, you know, writing or painting, you're presenting a piece of art or a piece of work. But when you're presenting yourself, it's actually incredibly hard to take criticism. And it's such a hard lesson to learn, is to take criticism, because you can actually get defensive, and then you're not taking the criticism, you're throwing it back. And
you're not learning.
And then you can also take it and let it wound you, and then just sulk. So it's a really hard process to actually get your head around.
Would you say that time in your life, you know, because of what you were doing, was quite a roller coaster then? Lots of highs and lows?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I cried like 3 times a day, just from sheer sort of, they think I'm crap, or why did she get that part? Obviously I'm not good enough, blah, blah, blah. Like, just really like letting one action just morph into 100 million different meanings. So one person getting a part that I wanted meant that I wasn't good enough. They were better than me. That meant that I wasn't going to get any work when I left. That meant that I may as well just give up on acting altogether and get a real job. It meant my parents were right about acting not being
and
a
it's
practical
that crazy thing, because at that age I think we're still kind of formulating our identity, and we're also still only learning how to communicate with other adults, and so we don't necessarily talk to our friends or our loved ones about all these feelings we're having, and so we internalize it. And then we've just got all these thoughts and ideas going on in our head. It's like this self-echoing chamber.
And it just swirls around.
Where you never, you know, you can't really find your way out of it. And so you're getting this constant feedback loop of just... Yeah. And
that's pretty much, what I got stuck in was just like a loop of my own judgmental thoughts. So if I got one critique, I would turn it around to be negative. Didn't matter what it actually was. It could have been a neutral critique, but it would just...
You'd find the criticism in it.
I'd find something bad, and it would make it like 10 times more dramatic than it was. And much worse. And so it was in this process that I started realising that self-esteem and self-belief, those things were so much more important than any amount of skill or talent that you could have. Because if you don't have a sort of strong self-belief system or something that connects you spiritually to yourself and who you are and keeps you sort of grounded, then you just let all of it eat you up. It was really like...
And then how can you actually present
your
skills to the world or to an audience?
Yeah, because I remember almost doing a self-sabotage experiment where I was just telling myself I was crap before every performance, and I would hear myself doing it and I couldn't stop it, and all I could tell myself was, you're so crap, you can't do this, it's going to be terrible. And then it really wasn't great. Like, I really could psych myself into giving a terrible performance, and then I realised if I could do that, then I could probably psych myself into giving a really excellent performance. So when I made that connection that, I was really off tonight, if I believe I'm terrible, I perform badly. And that's around the same time that The Secret came out. So this started planting a seed in my head. I was like, so thoughts become things. And then I was like, well, I actually have proof of that, because I totally threw that performance the other night by just telling myself I was shit and that I couldn't do it and I wasn't going to hit the right notes when I was singing, and that I wasn't going to project my voice loud enough. And then, sure enough...
That's what happened.
That was my belief. So that was what happened. And then... Even someone said to me after that performance, like, are you feeling okay? Because you just didn't seem, and I was like, I'm just too crap, I just can't, blah, 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 blah. And had this big mopey reaction. But then, I sat with it, and someone had, told me about the secret. And I started sort of flicking through the pages and thinking, okay, thoughts become things. And around the same time, I think it was Louise Hay that I discovered, who I still love. She's so amazing. But I picked up one of her books, which was...
Mirror Work?
Yeah, one of the... Was it Mirror Work or... Oh, no, it's gone. How to Love, or one of her really good ones. She's got a lot of really, really good books. But I picked one of them up, and it really did have a whole chapter on how what you think about, you bring about.
Yeah.
So it really went into this whole law of attraction, and that was the first I'd really heard of it. Because The Secret, whilst it was very popular, didn't really give you much other than think about a car and you'll get a car.
Yeah.
But for me, that was secondary to think you're awesome, you will be a really awesome version of yourself. So, Louise Hay really touched more on that kind of...
She gets a lot deeper into it,
into your self-belief being what guides you through life. And if you think
and it makes total
thoughts,
sense, right?
Yeah.
If you think you're going to be shit at something,
you're
going to be shit. It makes total sense, but yet you discovered it then in your early 20s, were you? Or,
early 20s,
Yet I took probably another decade
well,
to discover that, and I was, in that fight of wanting to be this, wanting to be that, but not believing in myself, and so not manifesting the results I wanted, and that ended up in manifesting relationships that weren't right for me, jobs that weren't necessarily right for me. Good things happen too, but
I did the same things because I didn't. I mean, you learn these things, but they don't necessarily become second nature for a long time. So
it's one thing to know something; it's another to put it into practice in your life. Yeah.
What I did was I sort of stumbled upon this information. I went, that's interesting, but I wasn't quite ready to make it my daily life. So I graduated from performing arts school and started going to auditions, but still with this little tape recorder in my head saying, you're not going to get this part, you're too fat for the part, you're not the right person for the part.
And I mean, that's so understandable because you'd had that habit for quite some years now, and it takes a while to break really those loops.
Yeah, so I still would go to auditions, psyching myself out, telling myself I was crap, and then I'd get there and I'd be like, who knows what the audition was like, because you never really know, and you never really know why you don't get a part. But I did start to realise that the times that I tried to stop it and tried to talk myself up positively were the times that the agent would tell me, they gave you really great feedback.
Right.
And
so you started to see it working.
I was like, okay. So, it took me a really long time to break that chain of knowing that I was getting, pre-audition nerves, and then I was letting them turn against me. Yeah. To try and... I saw it as a way of, self-sabotaging, so that at least if I didn't get the part, I could say, I didn't really try. So that's
yeah.
And so that also took me a really long time to break. But and I mean, I've only just started really in the last 5 years, really trying to keep it as a constant sort of keep my thoughts in the right place, keep my head in the right way, and then I will get the results I want. It's made an incredible difference, because now when I go to an audition, it's not really about getting the part, it's about going in there feeling good and doing a good audition, and then leaving feeling like, I enjoyed that process. I actually enjoyed that audition. It doesn't have to be an awful experience, because what you're going to get out of it, you're going to get out of it. At the end of the day, you don't have control over other people's decisions, but you can control what you learn from everything. So if you go in and you do your best and you tell yourself what you did right and you congratulate yourself, then you leave going, okay, that was interesting, cool, we've learned something new.
Rather than leaving and getting in the car and just beating yourself up and just
why didn't I do that?
Going under. And the truth is, for me, I still have those experiences.
I get them some days. I'm just not on my game, and then I have to really say, well, you know what? At least today you did an audition.
Yeah, and I think it's just part of being human that, you know, you learn new skills and you don't necessarily practice them consistently, and that's just part of being human. And then again, it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to beat myself up for that. I'm trying, and I'm changing, myself. I'm evolving, I'm growing.
Yeah, totally.
I'm not perfect.
Yeah, and accepting that, you know, we're all human. We all do things, like, you can't always function at 100% every second of every day.
Yeah.
So there's times where you go in and you're like, and also when you say, you come out of an audition and you go, I did that wrong. You might not have, you know, like it might be your own perception of right and wrong.
Exactly.
So the director might be sitting there going, oh, I like that thing she did there where she, you know, tripped over that mat. But it's like, they're like, oh, that was a clever
that was a great touch. Yeah.
So it's our own judgment that decides what's good and bad, but judgment is dependent on everyone's opinion. So
yeah.
It's like they might judge it a different way. So there's actually no point even bothering with the whole assessing everything after auditions and stuff. So that's something I try not to do, is even think about it. I try and surrender. Like, you know, when you're trying to manifest something amazing and you
it's kind of like,
and then you submit,
and then let it go.
And then try not to even care, because that's when the universe starts working with you. When you just let it go.
Yeah.
Stop putting any doubt energy into the world.
If you were to describe, you know, how you utilize the law of attraction, like if you give one example, what would it be? And how do you use it? Like, what are the ways that you use it?
I find the law of attraction works for me really well when I send out a tiny request into the universe and I just say, oh, that would be nice. Oh, if it's meant to be. And then I don't necessarily do anything, because sometimes there's little tiny things that don't require action. So like the other day, I was talking to my kids about wanting a kitten. And they were saying, oh, we really want a tabby kitten, but a little one. And I was like, well, we need to get a girl, because Cheesecake, our Burmese cat, is a mature male, and he might get a bit annoyed if we brought in a young male cat.
Yeah.
And so we're like, we need a female. And they were like, okay, so we need a female tabby. And I was like, oh, if one's meant to be ours, it'll come. And then I spoke to my mother an hour later, and she said, oh, a friend of mine's cat just had kittens. It's a tabby. And they've only got girls. I was like, what? So it was that whole light-hearted conversation of putting it out into the universe and then going, oh, we'll see. And kind of not really
sort of
worrying,
labouring over
like
it.
Really just letting it go.
Yeah.
And in other times, I've like had jobs that I've really wanted to get. And I have sat there lighting my candle and like sending this urgent energy out into the world going, please.
Yeah.
And in that situation, I was like holding so much fear and so much like doubt. And I didn't get that job. I was like, So it was like almost reversing the energy. Where it's like
I love that. So from what you're saying, and I think this is where a lot of people get the law of attraction confused. It's like they'll be like, you know, this is my intention and I want this so much, so I'm gonna pray for it, I'm gonna meditate over it, I'm not gonna do anything else that doesn't involve it and achieving it. And then, like you say, it becomes
like an
difficult
and
fear and doubt and intensity
and like, oh, why can't it come true? Oh, it won't come true for me because I never get what I want. And you can turn these thoughts around. So you have to be really careful I always say start from a place of gratitude.
Right.
Of what you already have.
Right.
Because if you're starting from a place of desperation and asking for things from that place of desperation, then the vibration's never going to work.
Right. So, damn it, that's where I've been going wrong.
Like, I desperately want this thing, please, please, please.
Yeah.
And all of the times in my life when I have begged for something, I haven't actually got it. And it's the things where I've gone, I could really use some more cash, and then boom, you get an email for something, or someone asks you to write something and you're like, cool. Yeah, it always seems to be when you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
Like I recently pitched an article somewhere and I wasn't sure if they paid, but I really wanted to contribute. And I sent it in and I was like, yeah, I'm really excited to contribute and I really want to write this. But I was like, we'll see. We'll deal with that later if they pay me. And I think because I wasn't connected to needing the money or the outcome of getting paid for it, and then suddenly they were like, oh, where can we send us an invoice? And I was like, awesome.
So there's just this lightness about it, and no major expectations, just kind of, knowing what you want, and then just being like, that would be nice.
That would be nice, but it's really helps to come from a place of gratitude.
Yeah.
So if you're really grateful for everything you do have, which, I mean, you don't have to have a mansion to be grateful. You know, you can be grateful for everything.
It's the little
in your
things.
Life. Just like the sun, how the sun comes into your window in the morning. You know, the breeze. Your health, of course. Yeah, you can be grateful for so many things. Like that's one exercise I try to play every day, or on the days where I'm struggling to feel positive, is I look around and pick 5 things I'm grateful for right around me that I can see. And sometimes it's as simple as that lady's wearing a beautiful pink jumper and I love that colour.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just simple things like that, and that can totally change your vibration, and then you're ready to start saying, but I would really like a cupcake.
Yeah.
And then someone could walk in with a cupcake.
Yeah, I love that. So it can really be used for anything.
And simply, it can be really simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's a practical tool, and it's something that works. And on many different levels, for big things in your life, you know, like relationships and financial situations and career, but for smaller things too, like a tabby cat.
Yeah.
So, okay, so law of attraction. Now, what about manifesting things in your life that you really want?
Yeah, I tend to manifest all kinds of things, and it's usually when I look back in hindsight that I say, wow, everything I've ever asked for I have actually received, and that helps with the gratitude process, I guess. But definitely I have managed to manifest acting jobs and writing jobs and one-off random photographic jobs when I've asked. I actually did a tapping sequence, which is emotional freedom technique, which is tapping when you tap acupressure points throughout over your body, like your head and your hand and stuff, and it can help you with a lot of anxiety related things. And one of the things I use it for is doubt, or even though you're feeling kind of like, oh, there's no way you can possibly get the money that you want for this thing that you might want to go on. Like I think in my experience it was, I wanted to submit my manuscript to be assessed by a professional manuscript assessor to give me feedback and tell me what to redo. But I was like, okay, I need to come up with this cash because I don't want to have to dip into my savings to do it. And so I was like, right, I'm manifesting that sum, that specific sum. So I started doing some EFT on it and releasing the doubt that could actually come to me, releasing the whole feeling that, oh, there's no way I could possibly find this money in short notice. And within 2 days, I had an email through saying, hey, we really like you, through like Star Now or something, saying, hey, we're looking for someone who looks like, you know, we want someone to play a mum at an airport. One day it's like a half-hour job, and this is the sum, and it was exactly the sum I needed to get this manuscript assessed. It was bizarre.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
But that sort of thing has happened to me time and time again.
Yeah. And
one of the things that I love about the law of attraction is that there's a belief that if not this, then something bigger or better or just as good. So say you're asking for a certain job. Yeah. It's like, well, you know what? If I don't get this, then something just as good will come along. Yeah. And knowing that means that it takes that pressure off what you want in the first place. So then you're not like expecting to not get it. So that just changes your vibration anyway. So yeah. So really it's living your life along sort of spiritual lines with these spiritual principles like manifesting and the law of attraction. It's a belief system. It is. It's a way, it's a way to have a belief system that gets you through life. It really is. In a space of gratitude and peace and abundance. Yeah, and it keeps you, I really like how Louise Hay puts it, and she just basically says you're wishing harm to none. So you're wishing good and prosperity and abundance to everyone around you. There's enough to go around. You don't need to sort of like sneak around and steal and try and, you know, get one up on others. There's enough for everyone. The universe wants everyone to have abundance. They want everyone to feel fulfilled and like they're grateful for everything they've got in their lives. Yeah. So it's just such a lovely vibration to have. Yeah, you know, absolutely. Everyone felt that way, how they were just grateful for everything they had. They wished everyone well, and they trusted that the universe was there for them and would give them everything they need,
Yeah.
then imagine what the world would be like.
Yeah, and such a beautiful way to live, in the Western world now, where we're surrounded by competition and the harshness of, capitalism and corporations and it's a beautiful way for an artist to live, eh?
Yeah, and I think, as an artist, it's so important because you can totally beat yourself up so much. As a writer, you're very much in your own head as well. So when I'm writing, it's very easy to start going down the whole, oh, this is all shit, why bother, oh, let's give up now kind of thing. And if you just take that pressure off and just, be grateful for that time.
Yeah. And how do you sort of have community around your spiritual beliefs? Do you have lots of friends that practice these principles as well?
Yeah, I tend to, more and more, I tend to meet people who have the same interests or spiritual beliefs or curiosities as me. So, because I read tarot, so a lot of the time it's very much I'm like, oh, should I bring my cards over? So then that kind of seems to be a connection where people are very open to having someone read their tarot, which isn't necessarily like fortune telling, it just sort of gives people guidance. So you're really just helping people to see a new way through an issue.
Yeah.
But more and more, all of my friends seem to be very interested in spiritual practices. So a lot of my friends and I will go to the witch shop to pick up crystals if we hang out together. And I do tend to...
It's just that like attracts like, isn't it?
I think so. And
it's
that's the whole
that
thing
happens.
Is when you're vibrating on that sort of level and you are interested in that, then, you think about what you bring about. So you're only going to attract... It just makes sense that you'll attract the people that have the same interests as you.
Yeah.
And the more I'm curious about it, the more I tend to, do more activities. Like last year I went to a women's circle where it was very much focusing on the elements of nature and how they affect women and the women's power and things like that, and how fire can relate to different times of the month, and it was really, really amazing.
We've just had a full moon, haven't
we?
Ooh,
that was a doozy.
I've got so many female friends that are like, thank